My name's Sarah Hulse, and I'm actually not a family consumer science educator. I'm actually the district coordinator for Eat Smart Idaho, which Marnie mentioned in her presentation and the handouts with the Cook Smart, Eat Smart, Shop Smart, Plan Smart. So I'm going to talk to you about how to add some glitter to your table. And before my life in extension, I was actually a florist. Started when I was 15 years old. Worked with Floral Classics, and in your goodie bags you actually have a coupon for a floral arrangement from Floral Classics. They're in Rigby. Now it's a little bit far for some of you, but if you're in Idaho Falls or have a friend, feel free to share that. And I believe it's $25 you could also just use towards an arrangement if you don't want to do the basket arrangement that it calls for. So make sure to look that up for your centerpieces for either Thanksgiving or the holiday season. But we're going to talk about how to add some sparkle to your tables here, and I am going to talk about floral arrangements towards the end, but we're going to start with tablescapes first off. Because this is a family edition, I think of tradition, and a tradition in my family is that when a young woman turns 18, mom takes you to the china store, you pick out a set of china, and then every year for maybe your birthday or Christmas, when you might receive a gift, you get a piece of your china, so that over the years you start to accumulate your own a little bit. Because it takes some time to add up, and it's not super inexpensive. How many of you use china with maybe some of your bigger meals, like the holiday meals? Okay, or maybe a family member's, grandparents, aunts, or your friend that sets up a china table, or maybe you're just going to a conference. So we're just going to talk about how to be familiar with some of those pieces and how to set a nice table setting. And a table setting can also be referred to as a cover. So you might hear it that way as well. Any Downton Abbey watchers here? Okay, had to ask. Mr. Carson, I think of the butler, bringing out his ruler and measuring all the parts of the cover setting. There is some truth to that. It's recommended that a cover setting be 20 to 24 inches wide and about 15 inches deep, just to have plenty of room there. And how wide your cover is might determine where you're going to place your napkins, so there's a little bit of science behind it. So a proper formal cover setting, start with a placemat. That's just to kind of help with spills, adds a nice accent. I really like to keep neutral colors so you can use them for more than one event. Next thing you might have is a charger. This is going to go underneath your dinner plate and just adds a nice accent. So we have a regular dinner plate. There's a lot of just beautiful plastic plates too, or paper plates that you can use at your meals. If you want less cleanup, that's definitely an option. And the chargers, I forgot to mention this, you can actually find those at the dollar store too. I've seen them there, and it's just a nice accent for any plate you can use. So after your dinner plate, you might have a salad plate, and these might have some design to it, they might not. Followed by a soup bowl. We'll talk about soup bowls a little bit. It's just kind of a regular soup bowl, but cream soups, they might have a handle on the bowl actually. So if you're maybe inheriting someone's set, just to be familiar with that. And something important with your table settings, if you don't need the dish or the utensil for the meal, you don't have to set it out. Just something important. I know sometimes we think, well, we'll set out all the utensils, the spoons, the forks, and the knife, but you don't always have to have them out. Some places you go, you might have a bread plate, and this goes towards the top left. I know you can't see this setting here, but kind of the bread plate there, followed by you might have your own butter knife there as well, and that can kind of sit, as it shows in the picture, on the top of the bread plate. All right. Off to the right, you're going to have a cup and saucer. Maybe there's going to be coffee offered at the dessert, or you might just have tea at the same time, so that's going to be off to the right of your setting. Something important to remember is the handle of the cup always goes towards the right. So I'm sorry if you're left-handed, it's not really catered to you, but to the right side there. And then we'll talk utensils. Just your regular dinner knife. It's actually recommended that you don't set out a steak knife with your formal dinner settings. A lot of these have a little bit of a serrated edge at the very top for harder meat cuts.
So is it better to set your knives which side is the sharp side? Does it go towards your plate?
Yep, sharp side goes towards your plate. Thank you for bringing that up. Yep, your sharp edge is going to go towards your plate into it, just so no one bumps it. You don't want any cuts or accidents at the table. All right, and then next you're going to have your spoons. Teaspoon's the first one, and this is usually a common setting. These can be used for about anything. Soups, it's just kind of the regular spoon that you can eat with almost anything there. Next you might have just a regular bigger spoon. It can be used for soups. It's also called a place spoon. And then next you might have a soup spoon, and soup spoons come in different sizes. The ones with a bigger kind of ladle look to them are actually for cream soups, so you can use them for that. But you might have it, you might not, depending on what you're eating. And then with forks, the first one that's closest to the plate is your dinner fork, actually. It's going to be a little bit bigger I go there. And there's actually different types of forks. There's fish forks, strawberry forks, lemon forks. So just depending on the set you get, just so you're familiar with some of those pieces or if you see them. And then you're going to have your salad fork. It's a little bit shorter in the prongs, a little bit smaller, and that's going to be on the very outside, the very left of your forks on the left hand. At the top, you might have a cake fork or a dessert spoon. You kind of see that in our picture there and the different directions that they may face. And then this we're not going to set out for our cover here, but just so if you're familiar with it, if you come across it, this is an iced tea spoon. They're just a little bit longer in the handle, and they actually come with a little rest sometimes, but they might be out in case you see that at a luncheon or something. And this is actually, I believe, a pickle fork, but you might also see some that look similar. It's a cocktail fork, and it actually doesn't go on the fork side. It's going to go to the very right of your spoons towards your drinks. All right, so we'll talk glasses a little bit. So this one's a water goblet. Wine glasses are a little bit smaller. They're not as deep of a goblet. But that's going to be at the very top of all your drinks on the right-hand side. Just towards the top, the water glass. Then you might have a couple different wine glasses, or you might have a champagne flute, just depending on what the beverage is. So that goes up at the top just next. So that's kind of cover settings there. Any questions with cover settings before we hit centerpieces? All right.
Where does the napkin go?
Napkin, thank you. All right, so depending on how much room you have, either you can have your napkin in a napkin ring or fold it in a fun fashion on the very left-hand side if you have lots of room, and at your table. If it's a tighter setting, you have lots of people sitting at your table. Same thing, you can fold it or use a napkin ring, and it might go across either your bowl or like your salad plate. So it really just kind of depends on how much room you have at your table, if you want it on the left-hand side or on your plate. Either one is appropriate, though.
So it's not appropriate to put it underneath your silverware?
Not underneath your silverware. I mean, I've seen it there, but formal setting, usually it's going to be off to the side so that you can easily access it without having to touch any of your utensils or any clinking sounds. Yeah, great question. Thank you. So that's cover settings there. Okay, so this is actually our giveaway at the same time from Floral Classics again. And I'm just going to ask you a question really quick. If I were to take away the spare grass and the sticks, would you want to pay as much money for that arrangement? Okay, it's a little bit smaller looking. So it's kind of a tactic florists use is they'll use sticks to expand that out, and we call it using air or selling air, just because it expands the floral arrangement. We can also use glitter sticks or ting-ting sticks, whichever you'd like to use. Another tactic they use is using left to right. So when we read left to right. And with our bigger objects, so here it isn't so much the flowers, it's kind of like the apple, the pumpkin, corn on the cob. They make a C with them, but it kind of goes left to right. And that's so that you see the entire arrangement at the same time. So just a couple tactics along with using bright colors, lots of different sizes, fun textures at the same time. And with any centerpieces you use and just having them in the middle table, the goal is to keep them low so that you can have a nice conversation with those across the table from you. You don't want anything too high. Another option, and in our picture here, is maybe using the chandelier and bring your arrangements up towards the top instead of on the table, giving you more room for your dinner dishes. And using light, that's another one, just to bring that sparkle to it. Katie talked a little bit about them, so you can find them at the dollar store. This actually came from Porter's. It's a little battery-powered light, and you just turn that on. It's really sparkly, really pretty, and you can add that into your arrangements. And that helps to bring out some of those textures and the colors that you can see a little bit more of that. But just a little simple item can go a long way, and you can use this many occasions, or if you have weddings coming up that summer, maybe you want more of them on hand, really versatile, and I think they're fun to use on mantles. And again, with that left to right, I was going to mention the same thing applies for Christmas tree decorating. If you have poinsettias in your Christmas tree, for example, kind of making that C shape again where you have left to right kind of helps people's eyes carry the whole way down the tree, and so you can see all the different decorations a little bit. It's just kind of thinking about how our eyes travel and what we're used to with our culture. That's all I have for centerpieces and table settings. Do you have any questions?